Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. A few years ago, I went to Walmart and I saw this strange orange bottle on the shelf. I bought it. It was cheap, $20. Got to the car and immediately walloped. A wave of emotion hit me because even though I'd never heard of this is Jovan Musk, I knew this scent like the back of my hand. Somewhere in my past, probably in my childhood, either somebody that I knew or maybe a store that I went to sprayed it all around. Something made this incredibly familiar. Now, that's happened to me a couple times with like Fahrenheit and Polo Green, but not to this extent. Whatever this scent is, it was worn around me a lot, and it was so familiar, it had a huge impact on me emotionally. If you really want to leave a permanent mark on somebody, it's important to have a signature scent, a scent that you wear regularly, maybe 2 or 3 times a week that people can associate with you. This is inexpensive, this is old-fashioned, but I have 6 really good fragrances that will leave a permanent mark on others. Even really big houses on a regular basis will try and expand their market share, gain customers that they don't normally get. And sometimes it's done to perfection. Jean-Paul Gaultier did that with Le Mal, Le Parfum. Now, Jean-Paul Gaultier is usually a youthful house. It's kind of a fun house. This is the original. Came out in 1995. It was very sweet. It had the kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, male torso. More of a fun fragrance house, but they didn't have a lot of luck with more sophisticated users. So what they wanted to do was bridge that gap, and they had a marketing plan. And one of them was dress up this guy. So he's now wearing dark, kind of like a tuxedo. The atomizer, which had previously been silver, was changed to gold. And instead of calling this Eau de Parfum, they called it Le Parfum to increase the level of sophistication. Now that was the marketing, and it worked. But if you don't get the scent right, all the marketing in the world doesn't matter, but they nailed this scent too. So Le Parfum has a lot of vanilla, which is typical of the Le Mal line. But what they did was they took the lavender, which is another typical note, and they ramped it up. And lavender is more popular among older and wealthier users. Then they also added a nice cardamom note, a little bit of warm spiciness, and then the pièce de résistance, they stuck iris in here, so the scent profile was more sophisticated than normal. Definitely leaning back to the past, but with the forward-looking iris, bump up of the lavender, a little bit of cardamom, and it worked like a charm. Now, there are still people that see the bottle and don't take it too seriously. You know, the people that like a lot of Chanel and Dior and they wouldn't touch Jean-Paul Gaultier. But for those people, I think that's a mistake because this is more sophisticated. It definitely worked. You got Quentin Bisch involved in the creation of this. I think it would be a fantastic signature scent, especially if you're somewhere between, you know, the fun-loving guy and the more mature guy or the more sophisticated guy that's looking for something interesting. It's a classic. Fragrance number 2 is Lorenzo Villoresi's Musk. And the reason this is on the list is I got this about 6 weeks ago. I've been reaching for it at least every second day or so. I've worn this way more than any other fragrance. I am going to make this my new signature scent. I absolutely love it. The only reason I got it is it's well known online that this is Brad Pitt's signature scent. And so I was curious. It was just curiosity. I do that a lot, but I did not in a million years expect to like it so much. Now it's a 1995 scent. I don't really get it as being old-fashioned, but let me just tell you what it's got. So a lot of rose and geranium, but especially rose. It's rose more than anything. And in the past I've liked rose, but I love this. It also quite woody. It has a lot of sandalwood, and then you get the musk. And it's not a typical animalic musk. It's not a heavy musk. Lorenzo Villoresi, it's an interesting case. He hand makes his fragrances in Florence, right? So it's not a corporate thing. It's not a production line kind of thing. He hand makes them in his workshop in Florence. Florence is not a big fragrance place. That's usually Milan or Rome. And he has training as an anthropologist. So he wanted the musk here to smell like human skin in the heat. So it's a clean musk. It's not an animalic musk. And then you also get a little bit of vanilla. But this being 1995, you get the vanilla note, but it's much more mild than what you're getting these days. 6 hours to 8 hours longevity, I get, somewhere in that range. I also get moderate projection. You can get this between 100 and 110. It comes and goes in North America. You can get this in Europe right now at their website. Again, a similar price. Definitely something a little bit different that would make a really good signature scent. Fragrance number 3 is an Acqua di Gio flanker. And the problem that I have with the Acqua di Gio line is the flankers are different from one another, but the differences are so subtle they're tiny. But I found with Acqua di Gio Profumo, it has the greatest difference between this and the original. Now the Parfum is also different, and the difference is darkness. And the reason I got a little upset when they removed this and they added the Parfum and took away the incense note was they were just taking a little bit of darkness away. The Parfum is still dark. It's still got that patchouli, the elevated patchouli that gives it a dark quality, but this has patchouli and incense in the base. It's almost like they took a Western aquatic and put it on top of something that's a little bit Eastern, a little bit of Middle Eastern feel, a little bit darker, right? So you got the patchouli, you get the incense in the base. This opens with bergamot, the usual citrus and sea notes, and then you're going to get a very aromatic scent, 3 notes with rosemary, geranium, and sage. But the darkness here is what makes it different. Also, the performance. You can expect between 8 and 10 hours of longevity. I get around 8, but C notes don't do well on my skin. I think it's a little bit different. I think if you're going for a signature scent, Acqua di Gio would be a really good option. It's a popular DNA, but I think you want to be as distinct as possible, so you either go with the Profumo or the Parfum. I think that's the way to go. If you remove one word from the name of the next fragrance, I believe the fragrance would be among the top 20 best-selling men's fragrances of all time. The word is Oud. The fragrance is Oud Noir by Versace. And I say this because the name Oud is not familiar to most people in the Western world, and people do not buy things that they are not familiar with. Unfortunately, though, this is as accessible in Oud as you could possibly get, and I think it's a scent that people would love, but they're just not going to try it. Now, it's quite similar to Oud Wood, which is a top-selling Tom Ford fragrance, but the Tom Ford buyer is very different than the Versace buyer or other designer houses. They're looking for more standard fare. They're not looking for things that are as exotic. But the thing is, this isn't that exotic because they took care of the darkness of the Oud by surrounding it with complementary fresh notes. So you're going to get orange, you're going to get neroli, so that's citrus freshness. You're going to get olibanum, resinous freshness. You're going to get a lot of saffron and black pepper, spicy freshness. There's just freshness everywhere surrounding the oud and making it palatable. And then you get a lovely cardamom note here that makes it really warm, spicy, almost date night. The only potential problem with this is performance variability. It's one of those fragrances where it performs really well on most people, 6 to 8 hours, but on the occasional person, they get a couple of hours. I've seen enough people complain about it that I do think it needs to be taken seriously, but for the most part, I think it's an absolute blind buy, especially for an oud fragrance. I think it's fantastic. I've thought very seriously numerous times about making this my signature scent because it's warm, it's date nighty, but it's got a little bit of exotic difference by being oud, and that's really what you're looking for when it comes to a signature scent. In 1882, Houbigant came out with Fuer Royale. That's the very first fougere fragrance for men, basically a barbershop. Prior to that, most men's fragrances, or most fragrances in general, were just like 1 or 2 notes. But a fougere is 3, lavender, oak moss, and coumarin. And 143 years later, I think the best fougere, the best barbershop fragrance that you can buy is Tom Ford's Beau de Jour. Now, I haven't tried all of them, but I have tried a lot of them, and this is the best that I've tried by quite a margin. This is similar to Zeno by Davidoff. It's also a little bit less similar to Rive Gauche by YSL, but this is, I think, a little bit higher quality. It's like the difference between going to a barber for a shave and then maybe going to some luxury place to get a shave. This is just a little bit better, and you really notice it when it comes to performance. The first 2, maybe 3 hours, this thing projects like a monster. It's a very high-end, fresh scent. Normally, fresh scents do not project a ton on people, and this projects like a monster on me. 8 to 10 hours in terms of performance, so overall the performance is really good, but the succinctness of the notes is really nice. So you're going to get 2 lavender notes here, regular lavender and English lavender, which is a little bit softer. So a ton of lavender. You're going to get 5 aromatic notes on top of that in the mid, including oak moss. You're going to get amber and patchouli in the base. This is an absolute beautiful barbershop. And if you're looking for more of a traditional feel, a more traditional signature scent, a barbershop would be great, and you're not going to get much better than this when it comes to barbershop fragrances. When it comes to signature scents, you're looking for something that's different, that stands out a little bit. And I think the note of fig really does that. I think a really good signature scent would be Salvatore Ferragamo or Homme. I think this is a fantastic fragrance. It's really, really reasonably priced. But when it comes to fig, I mean, it's right up there. The performance is really solid. I get about 6 hours, and it's got that distinct fig feel. So there's a lot of fig leaf in here, and fig leaf is kind of green, little hint, tiny hint of fruitiness, but quite green and very, very woody, because you're talking about fig leaf, but then there's also vetiver and cedar and rosewood, a whole bunch of woody notes in this as well. So it has a woody feel, it has a green feel, has a very different feel. The price here is really good too. And the odd thing is, like, this is one of the best fig fragrances I've tried. And I've tried a dozen. I got obsessed with fig a couple years ago, and I keep coming back to this one. You can't go wrong with it, especially when it comes to price. Kind of got a cool bottle with the curve thing too. So I think it'd be an excellent signature scent, something that people would definitely remember. And that's really what we're looking for here. So yeah, I mean, permanent marks, I mean, wow. Like, I got a number of stories about this. When I was in Jamaica for the first time, I lived there as a child. I went there on vacation when I was in my 20s. And again, I smelled the island, and it just absolutely blew me away. The sense of smell, it can do a lot more than most people realize, but it takes one of those incidents where you just bump into a scent that you're aware of and you haven't smelled in a long time, and then you get that wave of emotion. It can be incredibly powerful. I think signature scents are powerful. And yeah, I mean, I think there's some good ones here. Thanks for watching.